the government is closed. So we reached day 7 or 8 in the government shutdown. And I wanted to speak about the big, beautiful bill, which was passed in 2025, and the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed in 2022, because what happened in both of those bills is what the Republicans and Democrats are currently fighting over. The big, beautiful bill was passed in 2025 because the Republicans now have control of the three branches of government: the executive branch with the president, and then also Congress with the Senate and the House. So the Republicans passed a bill called the Big Beautiful Bill, which the Congressional Budget Office says they expect will cost the American people about $3.5 trillion in debt over the course of 10 years. The Congressional Budget Office is a bipartisan group that looks at the economic effects they anticipate happening based upon various bills. So typically, Republicans have a conservative mindset when it comes to politics, so they would want to lower the deficit. But the Republicans were trying to extend the tax benefits that they extended in 2017 in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which extended cuts for people who own businesses and who are wealthy. So not small businesses. Well, they had benefits for small businesses, but the big tax breaks were for the larger corporations and wealthy business owners. So these tax cuts that they gave to the wealthy was because Republicans are following a logic that Ronald Reagan introduced, and the term was coined trickle-down economics. So the belief is that if wealthy people have more cash on hand that they're not paying in taxes, they will be able to continue to innovate and create more jobs. So if they're able to innovate and create more jobs, it's expected and anticipated that that will help the U.S. economy and help the workforce. Specifically with regards to what's going on now, in that bill that was passed in 2025, Republicans made some changes to Medicaid, Medicare, and the Affordable Health Care Act. So they are not asking, but the new law will state that there's a work requirement for able-bodied men, which they are saying by doing so, it'll cause those men to work so they'll have income, so the government won't have to subsidize those men. So that should help with the economy. Also, they're changing who's eligible for Medicare, and they're limiting the use of hospitals by immigrants. So these various particulars the Republicans are saying will help the economy over time. So the Democrats, on the other hand, are saying that because the Inflation Reduction Act passed in 2022, that they believe that Congress, the president signed it and Congress voted on it. And based upon law and tradition, once something has been passed by both the executive branch and the legislative branch, it holds true. So the Democrats are saying that the subsidies that they're trying to get extended for Affordable Health Care Act were already approved. So they believe that the Republicans and the president don't have the right to prevent the extensions from continuing forth. So it's currently 2005 and the extensions weren't supposed to end until 2026. The reason that the Democrats are doing this now is because they kind of have some leverage in terms of stopping a 60-40 vote. So they don't want to wait until they potentially don't have the power to stop the bill. As I stated earlier, this is somewhat different from the normal course of normal policy between the two parties, because typically speaking, you would have Republicans trying to be conservative, lowering the debt, because in the Republicans' mindset is that they don't want Americans to owe money to anybody. So when the debt raises, that means we owe, typically it's been China in recent history, but we owe whoever is producing the products who we're receiving products from money. So Republicans don't want our generation to owe people more money as we get older. So typically they don't want us having a high debt. So they would be trying to cut it. Also, the Republicans look at social programs as a situation where the lower class is benefiting from the work and income of the middle class and the upper class. So social programs like welfare, Medicaid, housing vouchers, these things, we pay our taxes into the government, and then the government allocates the funds where they see fit. So what the Republicans will usually be trying to do is to cut taxes for everybody, including the middle class, the wealthy, those who are wealthy, but also the middle class, because their stance is the American people work for that money, and there's no reason, not that there's no reason, but they would prefer that the Americans keep the money as opposed to our hard-earned money going to government programs that are subsidizing those who are less fortunate. The Democrats try to represent the working class. So their argument, or the counter argument, is that the people who are receiving these funds are working. They just are not in the system of capitalism producing as much income as those in the upper class. So the Democrats don't just represent what I'm calling the lower class, but they also call them the working class. So this would include people like bus drivers, nurses, school teachers, etc. Frontline workers, the essential workers that we still saw going to work during COVID who couldn't stay home. So what the Democrats are saying is that everybody, whether you're wealthy, whether you're middle class, or whether you're lower income or working class, we all are paying taxes. So since we're all putting money into this pot, we need to make sure that everybody's receiving benefits from it. The Democrats also believe that in the long term, by helping these people, by helping out members of the working class and lower class, they will be reducing crime and improving Americans' quality of life on the front end. So in my lifetime, I have seen recessions, but I have not seen a depression. But basically what was behind a lot of the programs we see now was there was a depression in the 1930s. So these social nets were set in place to prevent mass suicide, people starving on the streets, people couldn't afford their homes, they were struggling to get food. So now the Democrats and Republicans are both trying to look out for the middle class. The Democrats less so the upper class, the Republicans somewhat less so the lower class. But what the politicians are trying to figure out is what is the best way to move the country forward, spending the tax money that we are taxed, and potentially with the Republicans, they're trying to cut a lot of the taxes. Now, outside of just the economic aspect, because that's me breaking down who the parties are representing from an economic place. As many of you may already know, you have conservatives who are poor who vote Republican, and you have wealthy people who are Democrats. Well, wealthy people who are liberal who vote for Democrats. So the reason for this is that all of our politics isn't broken down economically. So when you start adding in things like some race or gender issues like abortion, and various other cultural topics like capitalism versus socialism and things of this nature, people tend to have a difference on how they want to vote, even though sometimes it may not be in their best individual interest. Because I know of many black people who are not on welfare, and many whites as well who are not on welfare, but they still vote for people to utilize those programs, and they do so because they believe that in the long run there's more good than bad that comes from that decision. So this is just going through some of the particulars that I already stated about this is the House Committee on the Budget stating what would happen, what they expect to happen based on Big Beautiful Bill passing. So as you can see here, it says that they expect a $4 trillion rise in the debt. They said it's going to cut Medicaid, potential, not just Medicaid, but Medicaid, Medicare, and Affordable Care Act by $1 trillion. So specifically, the government would be spending less money on healthcare. It's going to raise the debt. This says by $5 million, so I was a little bit off. And this is a statement from Trump speaking about the Big Beautiful Bill passing it into law. He also stated that it would he's saying save $1 trillion. It's cutting that money from the government spending on it. So in a way it is saving, and it would lead to an increase in the people uninsured, which I think is a problem because we already currently have not all, but many Americans insured. So I've seen things that said 4.2 million people might become uninsured. That's high. This is saying 10. So I think that those people becoming insured may cause a problem later on in terms of like emergency visits, and just, I would prefer not to see people die. So if we are paying taxes, which most people are, I'm of the belief that even if my taxes are slightly higher than they would be without this bill, I would prefer to pay the taxes because I would want to see Americans as a whole have a higher quality of life. And then this next article is just speaking to the Inflation Reduction Act, which passed when Biden was in office and the Democrats had the Senate and House. So it passed in 2022. It created investments in clean energy, which is like eco-friendly policies and eco-friendly business. And they're saying that it's going to, in the long run, have a positive effect on Americans. It also cut Big Pharma's profits. So there were a few good things in the Inflation Reduction Act by cutting Big Pharma, making prices lower, and then the clean energy provisions as well being a success. Overall, it's not adding to the deficit, the trillions of dollars that Trump is, well, not Trump, but the Republican bill is adding. But the reduction of $200 billion isn't really, it's not much considering the overall debt that America has right now. But at least it's not adding to the deficit, and also it would not be cutting, well, it would not potentially be cutting like nursing homes being cut or rural hospitals being cut, because those are things that may potentially happen in the current big beautiful bill. Also, another thing that the Democrats were able to get in the 2002 Inflation Reduction Act was with the taxes on the rich. This, so as I explained earlier, there's like a sliding scale. Currently, wealthy people aren't taxed for when they buy back stocks, so it increases their wealth, but they're untaxed on it. And the Democrats passed something that would allow for there to be some tax on when wealthy people buy back stocks. So as you can see, it's just more of the same of the Democrats at least setting up policies that would potentially cause the wealthier individuals to pay more. The lower class tends to say pay their fair share, but currently, in honesty, the wealthy people, they pay more in taxes, but that's because they have more money. So to say they don't pay their fair share currently is not true, other than the fact that there are loopholes. So business people are able to get around their personal income, because what they can do is they can put a lot of what they do into their businesses. And not to go off on a tangent, but businesses don't make as much money as people think, because they're like costs and just things that have to be paid for. So because of loopholes, it's not so much the laws on paper, but some of the loopholes do allow the wealthy to get away with not paying their fair share. So as everything is kind of nuanced and tricky. On paper, the wealthy people are paying their fair share because they're paying the most. Then next is the middle class, and the least is the lower class. But in actual practice, wealthy people aren't paying their fair share because there's so many loopholes, and they're able to give to private nonprofit organizations, etc. They're able to put their money in different things to where they don't necessarily put it into taxes, but they do put it back into the community. If you like this video, please smash the like button, comment, and subscribe. New shows airing Monday through Thursday.